Welcome. You're listening to another episode of AML Conversations, where we sit down with some of the brightest minds in the financial industry to explore topical matters around financial crime and compliance. We hope you enjoy this discussion, and please be sure to subscribe for more.
How are you doing today?
Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm good. You were kind enough ways a long time ago, pre-COVID, where we were able to sit down and have a conversation in the early part of the creation of the Marquette's commercial banking program, and you're obviously been running that now for almost 5 years, and as the center director, there's been so much going on. But I wanted to ask you about a couple of particular projects. But first, remind us what the center is, what it's designed to do, and how things are going so far.
Yeah, great. Happy to do that. So thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, we started the commercial banking program at Marquette University back in the first classes that we taught were in 2017. So the primary purpose and the reason for doing this is we at Marquette have a number of applied programs where when you think about finance as a major, it's rather broad. And sometimes with undergraduate students, they're not always that certain what direction they're going to take when they graduate, because finance is a very broad area, important but broad. And one of the things that we decided to do is there is a very strong need in the commercial banking sector industry that the demand is very high for talent, especially because of a lot of retirements and succession planning. So we developed a commercial banking a program which is designed to not only recruit students into the program that are interested in a career in banking and that they're selecting that as a career in banking, but we train them very specifically in disciplines that bankers need to know. So in addition to the typical finance classes that they have, I have designed very specific commercial banking classes that they must take in order to get this concentration. Go ahead, John.
No, that's so interesting, and you were kind enough to invite me to be part of your advisory board. And one of the things that I've noticed for all the years that I've been either directly in the financial sector or adjacent to it, in the space that I'm in, anti-money laundering, compliance, that sort of space, it used to be that it was important to recruit individuals that had maybe legal backgrounds, accounting backgrounds, what have you. But we're finding, well, that's still true to some degree. A lot of bankers have said, and so have fintech executives, that if they could recruit individuals with an understanding of banking and banking products, that would be an easier transition for some to better help them help the institution. So you bring in a compliance person and they're good at writing policy, or they're good at legal analysis, that's great. But if you bring somebody in who actually understands how credits and debits work and how products work, they're probably more likely to understand how to navigate those laws and regulations. So I think what you're doing,
Absolutely.
so I think that's an adjacent part of your program, not a main focus, but you're certainly helping the industry by training these folks. So I know that you've had a really good success in placing folks with some large institutions that a number of us are very familiar with. I actually spent time at Bank of America. My daughter works at PNC. I work closely with folks from Capital One and Wells Fargo. So it sounds like that those institutions have been very helpful as partners to the program, right?
Yeah, no, we've been very successful. Matter of fact, at the 100% level, I've had 5 graduating classes, and they're all placed. And with organizations like Capital One, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Wintrust, BMO Harris. So it's been very successful.
That's great. That's great. So what I want to spend most of our time talking about, I was able, because I still get the Marquette Business Magazine, and the most recent edition was an article about something that your students and you have been working closely on, and that's the title of the article is Banking on Community, which we will link to our listeners. But it's about a particular partnership that Marquette has through your efforts with your students with the microfinance organization in Central America, in Panama City. And given the fact that there's a lot of struggles with financial access and inclusion for institutions and small businesses and farmers to get assistance, this seemed like a very interesting project. I know it's one of many, but talk a bit about this project and what it's designed to do.
Yeah, I started talking with them about a year and a half ago, and mostly I'm focused on a group called Escala, which is the microfinance group that works with a number of these impoverished countries. I have a course that is actually what we do is we analyze small business loans and we present those to a group of bankers in a credit committee. And I included this in that particular course because I thought this is a great opportunity to get an international aspect of the course, but also to really dive deeper into more grassroots type community banking, understanding small business at a very base level. And it checks off a lot of boxes because one of these is our mission at Marquette, which is service related, but it also helps the students understand really what credit is all about and the need for capital, even if it's only $200 or $300. But that makes a big difference for a very small community in Panama or Nicaragua or other places like that. So that's the main reason that we got into it. And we did it for the first time this last semester, and it was very enjoyable. And we had good results with it, which I'm happy to talk about. But
yeah, so you in part because it was new, in part because of, I assume, COVID restrictions. This was the students doing virtual consulting with folks down there, right? And what sort of consulting did they do? As you say, a couple $100 goes a long way in some of these communities. So it wasn't as much the dollar amount as the experience and sharing their skills, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And we were doing this virtually with the community bank, and what they were doing is expressing some of their challenges and what their goals were, what they were trying to do. And as you can imagine, they're at a very rudimentary level. Yeah, the students, from a consulting standpoint, they were working virtually with I'm sorry, my pronunciation is not so good, a PT Colonna, which is a Caja Rural in Panama, which is a community bank, very local community bank, doing it all virtually. But the goal, what they were trying to do was to understand what the challenges this community bank was facing in the community and what they had determined were their goals. As I was saying, the goals are very rudimentary. It's very basic. But the students had the opportunity to take some of that initial information and brainstorm amongst themselves on how they can help this group. And part of it is financial literacy to a certain degree because the amount of education that they have in those areas is very low. I think upwards of maybe the 6th grade. So they put together recommendations that we ultimately presented to the community bank, which they in fact adopted. And that's what they that was the deliverable, and that was the exciting part about this, is because I think we created some real value. Actually, they created a logo for the community bank. They built a flyer and kind of helped them craft more of the goals to establish an event where they could bring people in to discuss the benefits of a community bank and the benefits of borrowing for their small businesses so that they could grow. And those are some of the things that we did in this.
Interesting. Quick side issue. Was it important that any of the students be able to speak Spanish? How did you handle the language issues?
We did have an interpreter, Anna, and she was with us. And one of my students, Lily, did speak Spanish, so she was able to converse a little bit. But that was one of our biggest challenges: is the language is difficult, and the technology is also challenging. So, they don't have a lot of technology in those areas, and so it gets a little spotty and sometimes breaks up quite a bit. But we were able to get through.
I thought from the article, you mentioned your student, Lily. She's quoted in the article as saying that the community bank executives record loan information with a pen and paper by hand. So they're looking to help digitize their books. And as you say, you help them with a logo and with other things. So when you say rudimentary, you were not kidding. Obviously, I'm sure they benefited greatly from the assistance of the students.
Yeah, for sure. And we had access to their ledgers, and they're very basic. I mean, these are things that we could easily put into an Excel program. And, they do have some computers there, so there's more we can do with that and help them to develop cash flows that would be more beneficial to them, various things like that. And these are things that the students can easily put together for them.
Yeah, so obviously more will be done in this space, as you've mentioned, but the article also, and we talked a little bit about this offline, also talks about some of the other things your Marquette and the commercial banking program have done, and that's partnerships with the Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative Corps, and obviously you work with Town Bank. Talk a bit about that and what the goals are of those partnerships.
Yeah, the Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative is a community development financial institution, and they work with very small businesses, organizations, startups that can't necessarily get a loan through a bank. They don't have enough of the requirements to get a loan. So they work with WIBIC, and what we've been able to do is we have access to their portfolios. So we will take a look at the small businesses that have made requests for loans, and my students get the opportunity to analyze these, and we put it into an actual credit package. So the students have to do an actual write-up where they do cash flow analysis, the income statement, pro formas, collateral analysis, everything like that, and truly understand the business. And their goal is they have to present it to a committee of bankers that I bring into the classroom, and we evaluate the credit and make recommendations for approval or denial of the type of credit. And we've been doing that for the past 3 years.
Yeah, that's really hands-on, and that's great that you get those bankers to come in and do that and volunteer their expertise. So, and taking advantage of that you're doing, really, even if the students don't automatically appreciate it, I got to think that that's going to help them not only during the semester understanding things better, but once they land jobs with institutions, as you've been pushing them and getting them hired, that must give them a leg up on other staff, I would imagine.
It absolutely does. And the one thing that it does is it gives them exposure to think on their feet when they're presenting this information. I view the bankers who come into the classroom as co-teachers in this course, because a lot of the benefit that the students get, and they have to do some write-ups on this as well, is what are they hearing from the bankers, and how does that give them information to help them improve when they do their next analysis? So that information is, I would say, better than a textbook, and it really helps them immensely. So nobody else gets that.
So I'm going to get you out of here on two questions. One would be, I know that there are career fairs and other opportunities for the financial sector to look at your students for, potential hirings. What would you say that gives your students, besides the obvious? I mean, they're getting they're getting all this experience, both hands-on and obviously all the things that you've created. What would you say to a financial institution that's looking to bring in graduated from undergraduate programs like the one at Marquette, the value proposition of looking at your graduates from the commercial banking program?
Yeah, the primary thing is what we were just talking about before. They understand not only the banking terminology, but they also understand regulations. They understand how a bank makes money, which oftentimes people who go into banking don't even understand that for a while.
Right.
And they understand the economy. They understand the Fed. They know how when a change in Fed funds rate, what does that affect beyond just consumers, but it does affect the bank. And they know how to deal with those things. And that lays a foundation for real growth. And I think that makes a huge difference depending upon wherever they go within a bank, because now they have that foundation. And I think that's the real value that we create in this program.
So give us a sense, what do you have coming up? You've done outside programs on cyber. I was able to work with you a couple of years ago on financial crime program. You do some on-campus work. So what's coming up in either late 2022 or 2023 that the banking program's involved in terms of additional educational programs? What are you thinking about in terms of next year?
Yeah, lots of things. Now that things are opening up more so with COVID, hopefully, we'll continue to do our study abroad, which is for the commercial banking program. We go to Zurich, Switzerland, study the banking sector in Switzerland and in Europe for that matter. So that'll continue. We're doing a golf outing where I pair students with bankers so they can talk about banking. We do a number of networking events. As you mentioned, we do conferences at least annually. We did one on climate change, climate risk this past semester, and we'll do another one in the spring. Now, one of the things that is a big topic that we may get deeper into is the whole concept of talent in banking, because it's starting to come to an acute level. And I think bankers are struggling a little bit with now dealing with, how much do they pay people? They need to get talent. They've got lots of competition out there. What can we do better to attract more students to the banking sector?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think in part, one of the challenges has been because of the competition with financial technology. A quick anecdote.
That's the big one. Yeah.
I won't mention the company, but a colleague of mine who was in law enforcement decided to take the plunge to go to the private sector, doing investigations, that sort of thing. So she gets hired by a major multinational institution, and into the job, let's just say a financial technology firm who knew that this person was, finally out and working, reached out to her, offered her twice the salary of where she was, which was a decent salary to begin with. And so sadly for the bank, because I think this person, in my opinion, should have hung in there a little bit longer, left to do that. So, and the bank just said, we just can't match that. So I think explaining the value proposition of being part of the banking community, traditional or not, and a lot of them are actually working closely with fintech partners anyway. So it's not like it's total competition. It's collaboration to some degree. But I think that's a long way of saying, I think what you're doing should certainly help many of the institutions, because of the fact that the commercial banking program is explaining to the next generation, and the one beyond that, the importance of joining this industry that's so important to the economy and to society and everything else, right?
For sure. Yeah. And it makes the world go round. And that's what everybody needs to understand.
That's right. So, Kent Belasco, thank you so much. Sorry for the glitches there. Director of the Marquette's commercial banking program. We will We will link to the article in the journal, but we will also link to the website. And I really appreciate you taking some time today to share the exciting projects that you folks are working on and will continue to work on. So thanks so much for doing this.
Definitely. And thanks for the opportunity, John. And good talking to you.
All right. We'll talk soon. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of AML Conversations, brought to you by AML RightSource. To make sure you're staying up to date with what's going on in the industry, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast to get the latest episode.